We're so happy that we have a special visiting speaker today, Gary Lewis, and he will soon be going as a missionary pilot, and we'll let him tell you about what he's been doing. Gary Lewis, at the end of the service, we're going to have offering plates at the door so that if you would like to help in his missionary work, you may do so.
Happy Sabbath, everyone. Happy Sabbath. It's great to be back in Central Church. It's been a little while, but it's always good to come back and see familiar faces again. Just a couple of items before we get started into this sermon is we have a sign-up sheet for those of you who have email, would like to get our newsletter. We send a newsletter out about once a month, telling what's happening out in the bush. You can get stories direct that way. If you like, if you're not, that's fine. If you're already getting it, don't sign up again because then you'll get it twice and we don't want to flood your mailbox. But we send it about once a month. So if you'd like to get that email, just sign up on the clipboard as it goes around, and we'll be happy to tell you stories from the bush. My wife and I are volunteers. We do not work for a big organization, but we work for the King of Kings. And that's the best you can get. We are stationed in Papua New Guinea. See if we got the map up there. For those of you who don't know your geography, Papua New Guinea is just north of Australia. We are south of the equator, so we are down under. Learning to fly upside down. Well, not really, but kind of, you're upside down all the time, so you don't really notice it. But it's an island down there. It's a large island. You see the line in the center of it there. That's the dividing line between Papua New Guinea and Errands, or West Papua, or Indonesia, depending on who you talk to, what map you look at. But it's split in half. Papua New Guinea is known as the land of headhunters and cannibals, and it still happens. It's also known as the land of the unexpected, and that really happens. And then, of course, there's other little sayings too, but we won't go into some of those. But anyway, we're volunteers. We've been there a year and a half already. We're going back tomorrow. It's a long flight. We go out through LA to Australia, and then we fly up to Papua New Guinea, and then we fly across the country up there where that little red dot is. That's where we are stationed. It's about 500 miles, 600 miles from the capital as the crow flies. But, of course, the planes don't fly like crows, so we do our thing. But we are just a few miles from the border of Indonesia or Errands. We're about 30 miles inland, and it takes us only about an hour and a half driving those 30 miles if the road is in good shape. If it's not, it can take 2 hours plus. It's been kind of a culture shock coming back to this country. You drive on the wrong side of the road, steering wheel's on the wrong side, you can't shift where you're supposed to be shifting, and you guys drive extremely fast. 70 miles an hour, come on, folks. This is craziness. It's bad enough at 25 on rough roads, but your roads are smooth, so I guess that's the difference. But it's exciting. Let's pray before we open God's Word. Father God, it's your Sabbath, the day that you've asked us to come apart, to lay aside our busy schedules and to think of you and to study your Word. We ask this morning that your Holy Spirit would draw very close. Open our hearts and our minds that we might see Jesus. Help us to understand, Lord, what it is you're asking us to do, how we can serve you, how we can lift up Jesus, so that others would be drawn to you. Oh, Lord, we long for the day when you will come, but there's so many that we have to reach yet. Please help us to reach them, Lord, so that when you come, your kingdom may be full. We ask in your name, amen. Let's look in our Bibles, Matthew chapter 25. Matthew chapter 25. I appreciate the song you picked this morning for opening song. I don't know who's responsible for it, but that is an awesome song. And I've heard that song for many years, and it really speaks to me because when God calls, who will say, I will go? Because Matthew says, many are called, but few are chosen. What does that mean? God's calling all of us for his kingdom. But why are so few chosen? Because so few of us respond to the call. Not all of us have to be sent to some faraway country where it's almost back to the Stone Age. Some of you are lucky you get to stay here where you have padded pews and air conditioning and cars and smooth roads and big homes. Some of you don't realize how good you have it. Count your blessings one by one. But some of us, we've been relegated out to those far-off places in the bush. Because we don't call it jungle where we come from. It's only bush. It's tall bush. Okay? We don't have short bushes. It's only the tall bush. But nobody out there refers to it as a jungle. That's a word for this country for some reason. I don't know why. Many are called. Few are chosen. God is calling each of us. In Matthew 25, we're going to look down here starting about verse 14, the parable of the talents. And I know I've heard this sermon many times from other preached on this topic, but I look at it a little different now, having been out in the bush. You see, God gives each of us talents. Some He gives 5 talents. Some He gives 2. Some He gives 1. Does that mean one person is more important than another? Does that mean one is more valuable than another? No. God gives the talents according to what we're going to need to do His job. And that's what He was doing here. He had 3 employees. He gave one 5 because that person is going to need 5 talents to do what he was supposed to do. And the man He gave 1 talent to, he didn't need 5 because what he was required to do was only needed 1 talent. So don't sit back and say, well, I'm going to let the conference president do it because he has all the talents, so therefore it must be his job. I can't do it because I'm just a taxi driver. Don't ask me, Lord, because I don't have all the talents that He has. When God did the accounting here, as you read down, did He say, well, the guy who had 1, it's okay. It's all right. I know I didn't give you much, so I'm not going to expect anything from you. Is that what He said? No. He expected the same from him as He did from the man with 5. And that's what He expects of you and me. It doesn't matter how many talents you have. The more you have, the more you have to do. Sorry about that, but that's the way it is. The less you have, you still got to work, though. You got to do the same amount of effort. Because if you don't, you can read what's going to happen. It'll be taken away. And you will not be among the chosen. And that will not be a nice day when that happens, when the day of accounting comes. And it's coming, folks, for each of us. If we go back up just a little bit in the chapter, it talks about the parable of the 10 virgins. These were church members, folks. They went to church every week on Sabbath. Why? They participated in all the different activities. They were expecting Christ to come. The bride was coming. But kind of like some Adventists, we say, yeah, we've been preaching that for how many years? How long have we been expecting? And we're still here. And so we kind of get lazy. We kind of don't want to hear about the missions and other problems because we hear about disasters every day on the news. I can't believe your news here. It's incredible. See, on the bush, we don't have news. It took me a while to get over that when I first got out there. But now coming back, it's like, oh, it's too much. I don't want to hear about all this bad stuff over and over and over and over and over and over. What about some good things happening? Don't you guys ever report any good things? Or do no good things happen in this country anymore? Because I find good things happening in the bush. Yeah, we have bad things. But what do you focus on? The good or the bad? But here it's talking about 10 church members waiting for the bride to come. And then when the bride comes, is it with notice and advance notice? No. Hurry up. Wake up, church. The bride is here. Did they have time to go out and get ready? The last minute, no, got to comb my hair, got to fix up, got to adjust my makeup, got to make sure my dress is and everything's all fixed up just perfect. Did they have time for that? No. Those who were ready went in the door. Those who had to go make adjustments and get things ready and do all that stuff were left outside. And when they knocked on the door, what was the answer? I know you not. But Lord, I was in church every week. I held church offices. And if you read down a little bit further in Matthew, it says, I even fed the poor or the hungry. I clothed the naked. God says, sorry, I don't know you. But I did it in your name. Yeah. But I don't know you. I need to know you. Who are you? I don't recognize you because you never accepted the call. What are we doing about developing a relationship with Jesus Christ? That's the bottom line, folks. If the master doesn't know you, you can't come in the door. It doesn't matter what badge you're wearing. It doesn't matter what church membership you acclaim to. Does he know you? That's the key. That's the key. Does he know who you are? Have you built a personal relationship with him each day? Do you know what God can do for you today? Do you see God working in your life today? If not, I beg you, please start a relationship with Jesus Christ today. Time is running out, folks. Very, very fast. And I know it's easy in this culture to get jaded because you hear the same thing over and over and over and over. And after a while you say, yeah, I've heard all that stuff. But being out of this country for a year and a half, out in the bush, where there is no electricity, there's no telephone, there's no internet, there's no radio, there's no TV. The world has kind of left us behind. And we come back and we say, wow, what's everybody doing? All these things are happening. Why aren't people excited about what's happening? And we just kind of get lulled into all this, oh, did you hear what happened in this town? Did you hear what happened over there? Did you hear what happened? Oh, yeah, same old stuff. Jesus is coming very soon. And whether he comes right away or whether he delays a little bit longer, the question is, are you ready? Are you ready to meet Jesus today? If he comes for you today, is he going to know who you are? Do you have that relationship? Are you going to be able to say, as it does down here at the end of Matthew, Lord, I never saw you. I wasn't able to take care of you. And Christ says, no, but you did it for all the rest of my family. And that's what counts. That's what counts. It's easy to say, look at these people and say, well, they were foolish. You know, they didn't take the oil. Why didn't they invest their money at least in the bank and get 0.005% interest or something, you know? But what are we doing? What are we doing? As my wife was mentioning in the story this morning, we have learned that as we give, God is then able to give us in return. That if I hang on to everything I have, oh, God has given me so many things. Man, this is marvelous. I'm enjoying it. Great. It's awesome. It's like a kid at Christmas time. Got all these presents. Man, this is great. A few days later, the presents are kind of forgotten. And they want more. But they don't have any room to put anymore because the toy box is already full. If you have a glass of water and you fill it up with fresh water right out of the, well, I guess you use a spigot here. We don't do that. We get rainwater, okay? It's fresher that way. But anyway, if you have a glass of nice fresh water and you hold on to it and you just walk around and say, look, guys, all this water I got, isn't this cool? And the rest of you out here are thirsting to just give me a sip. Oh, but look at the water I have. Isn't it neat to look at? Man, I'm so lucky. I am so blessed. I have a glass of water. I'm sorry you don't. But maybe you can go find some. This is really cool. And man, when you drink it, it feels so good. And you're all out there, please give me a sip. Oh, but God gave it to me. Thank you very much. I must take care of it. I must be a good steward. I must take care of it. And God looks down, he sees that glass of water, and pretty soon it starts to turn green. You know, they call it algae. And it starts to get a bad smell to it. And pretty soon I don't want to drink it because it doesn't taste good. But what if I were to go around and give everybody a sip, quench your thirst, and my glass runs dry? Then what? Then I go thirsty, right? Not with the God that I serve. Because with the God that I serve, when he sees my glass is getting empty, my blessings are going down because I've been giving them away, what does God do? Malachi says he will do what? Open up the windows of heaven. And we'll get so many blessings it won't fit in the glass anymore. We have to get more glasses so we can hand out more water to more people. Are we holding our treasures back, folks, saying, well, someday I'm going to retire. Someday I'm going to need it because I want to buy a bigger house. I'm going to need a new car. I'm going to need... I can't let it go because I might need it someday. What if I get sick? Who's going to pay the bills? And so we hang on. We hang on with our fists clenched. It's mine. God gave it to me. I'm sorry you don't have any. But if we let it go, God says, aha, I know her. Now they got the message. Now I can open the windows of heaven and pour out the blessings. My wife has seen this. My wife and I have seen this happen so many times. Even since we've been back in this USA the last 6 weeks. God has opened the windows of heaven, and we just can't take it all in. We've been packing our suitcases, trying to get all these blessings into the suitcase to take down to Papua New Guinea, and it doesn't fit. Because God says there's not enough room to receive it. And my God's promises are faithful. My God says that he will supply all of our needs according to what? His bank account in heaven, right? Now, the last time I checked, and I check it pretty often, that bank account isn't even close to going bankrupt. In fact, they got so much money up there, they're paving the streets with gold because asphalt just ain't worth it. Does your bank do that? Mine does. We believe what God says. We have been flying as volunteers since 2007. And for those of you who are pilots, you know that's not a cheap endeavor, especially in third world countries where fuel is very expensive. And we don't just fly a couple hours a month. When we were in South America, we were flying on average of 500 hours a year. And for any pilot here, you know that's a serious amount of money. But we never missed a flight for lack of funds. Never since 2007. Every time there has been a call and we have been able to respond, God has always provided the means with which to do it. Because he says, I will supply all your needs. But too often we say, well, Lord, I can handle this one. This is okay. We can do it. We can handle this on our own. You just watch and let me do it. And God says, oh, if only I could help you. If only you'd let me partner with you. If only you get to know me. We could do so much more. But it's easier to hang on. Hang on tight. When I left working for this conference in 2007, God said, go work for me. I said, that's fine. He says, I want you to fly a plane. Well, that's cool, but it's very expensive. God says, do you trust me? Yes, but. And then he started with where he wanted us to go and what he wanted us to do, and the doubts started coming up. And God says, do you trust me? Yes, Lord, but. And that's the trap we so often fall into. But as I look back on these years of being an employee of the King of Kings, I wouldn't trade. People say, well, what about health insurance? We have Obamacare. We're unemployed, we're uninsured. Obamacare will take care of it. But I came to a rude awakening when I came back this time. When I went to the doctor's office, they laughed at me when I told them just let Obamacare pay for it. They said, pay us cash. Whoops. My God provided it. No questions asked. I had to have a cataract removed just a few weeks ago up in Prescott. Went in to see the doctor on short notice, and he said, how'd you get in so quick? In fact, it happened at the front desk. I went in for my appointment, and the lady says, you're not on the schedule. I said, oh, yeah, I was told to be here at this time. No, you're not on the schedule. Who are you? I told her my name. She says, no, you're not on the list. Sorry. Well, somebody in the back room happened to hear that, and she came around. No. We didn't put him on the list because we didn't want to make a problem, but we're just slipping him in. It's okay. He can go in. Who do you know? So I go in and I get to see the eye doctor, and he's doing my check, and he said, how did you get in here? And I said, well, my wife used to work with some of your nurses, and they made the connection. So I said, they said it was okay to come in today. He said, well, you have a bad cataract. It needs to be removed right away. And I said, well, I'm leaving in a few days. I'm on trip, and He said, well, we can do it in 2 days. Okay, fine. Came in, knocked it out, away we went. God takes care of it all. Just before we left P&G, about a month before we left, our house in town got robbed 3 times in 2 weeks. We weren't there at the house at the time, which is probably a good thing, but the first thing they cleaned out was my headsets that I use in the airplane to listen to the radio and to talk to the air traffic controllers. And without those, you can't basically fly. And so it's like, okay, Lord, they just took all of my 4 headsets because I had one for each seat in the aircraft, so I can talk to passengers if necessary. What are we going to do? I can't buy them here. I can't replace them. What am I supposed to do? And so we left it in the Lord's hands. We came back to the States, and I'm that type A personality. I got to get in and figure this thing out. So I got online and I ordered a pair of headsets, so I'd at least have 1 headset. I'm thinking, well, maybe the Lord will be kind and find me a second one, so I at least have 2 because you need one if you have a co-pilot. So I ordered it, very, very expensive. Had it coming in the mail. It arrived. 2 days after it arrived, we were heading to Utah to visit my mother-in-law and our daughter. And we arrive at the house, and my mother-in-law says, oh, by the way, a couple days ago, a box arrived for you from a friend of mine who lives in Washington State. I opened up the box. Guess what's in that box? 4 headsets, all newer and better than the 4 that were stolen. So I sent the other one back real quick. You see, I didn't have enough patience to wait for God to provide. But my God says, I will supply all what you're going to need. He knows I'm going to need those headsets. And He provided them on time. Because that's the God I serve. I went to North Carolina to visit my parents. And I arrived and there's a box waiting for me. It's full of pots and pans. Because all ours in P&G were stolen at that same time. Again, another blessing. God says, I know your needs. I shall supply. And He does. We haven't gone out asking for those things. But God says, I know what you're going to need. And I will provide. On time. Sometimes early. He's never been late. I don't always understand His timing because my thoughts are not His thoughts. His ways are not my ways. But His ways are the best. Let me just show you a few pictures here. I don't want to... Oh, man, that clock. What did you do? Did you speed that clock up a little bit too much there? Slow it down. Get a slower battery or something. Let's see if we can make this thing work here. Maybe it's not seeing my computer. Let's see here. Well, it looks like my clicker is not responding too well. Not working. All right, can you just click the next forward picture for me? All right, maybe she can get it from there. Our beaches down there are awesome. We live in the closest town for us is Vanimo, which is right on the coast. It's a port town, right up at the top part of that map we just had on there. It was right at the top, right near the border. It's not a very big town. In fact, this town only has about 3 stores, and each one is about the size of a 7-Eleven, but not stocked near as well. Okay? There are no gas stations. There are no stoplights. There are no street signs of any kind. Tells you how big it is, right? We do have a few streets, sort of, kind of. But we have beautiful beaches. Okay, next. White sand, beautiful coral beaches, awesome. But that's 30 miles from where we are based. When we went there a year and a half ago, we had no idea what we were going to do for housing. We even took a tent because we didn't know. This is an adventure in faith. There was no promises, no nothing except that they would give us an airstrip out in the bush. That's all they promised. So as we arrived, they put us up at the pastor's house in town because they had no pastor, so we got to stay in his little house for about 2.5 months, rent-free, nice little home there at the church. And then the new pastor arrived. They said, well, he's only got 2 kids, so you can all live together in this little 3-bedroom house. I said, whoa, this is a very small house. It wasn't as big as this room. Probably about maybe a third of the size of this room would be in that house. I said, well, another family that's going to be a little bit tight with 2 kids. He showed up at the airport. He had 4 teenagers. I said, whoa, this isn't going to work too well. And they were realizing the same thing, and the church members were like, what do we do? That morning, a church member had come to me, and she says, I have a house that needs to be a house sit. Would you like to look at it and see if you might be interested? She said, it could be available in a week or 2. I said, oh, that's cool. Let's go look. Well, about this time is when the pastor showed up with his 4 kids. Yeah, we got to go look now. So we went to look. And this house is sitting up on a cliff overlooking the ocean and the jungle. It has 3 large bedrooms. It was almost completely furnished. She says, you can stay here for 2 months rent-free. I said, can I move in now? She says, you can move right now. We were out in an hour. Boom, we were gone. And the new pastor was moving in. You see, God's timing is always good. God knew the pastor needed a place. He knew we had to have a place, and so he provided one. She said, well, that's good till April 1 of last year. We're still in that house. Over a year later, rent-free. This is the house in town that got robbed. It's all right. God supplies all our needs. We were in town while we were trying to get this house out in the bush. This is the house out in the bush as we first arrived. They said, you can have this shell of a house if you want to fix it up. You can stay in it temporarily. Okay? If you look really close, you'll notice there's stairs. There's a few things missing on those stairs called rungs. The rails are there, but the steps were kind of missing, and my wife didn't think that was quite acceptable to her. And, of course, you can see the grass was grown up, and the paint was getting kind of rough. There's no glass, no nothing in the windows, just open holes. Next picture. This is the inside. Half the walls are missing. That was the kitchen, by the way, in case you can't tell. Windows on the right. That's also the dining room, the living room, the kitchen. Yeah, that's half the house. This house is the size of a normal 2-car garage. Okay, 400 square feet, 2-car garage. That's half the house. Okay, next picture. Yeah, we have one of those things. Next picture. Don't want to gross them out. Walls missing on the inside. Windows missing. Everything's missing. Okay, keep going. It's basically a shell. This is how we transport people from the bush to town. Except they were trying to get more people on it because there wasn't enough yet. They ride in the back of this thing for an hour and a half or 2, and they charge them $12 each way. Yeah, it's a rough road. The church members came out from town and said, we're going to help you get your house ready. So they came out and we got their bush knives out, or I guess you call them machetes here. That's what you call them, right? Those long knives, yeah. Everybody out there carries one. Even the little kids carry them. You can take them to school, you take them to church, doesn't matter. You can go anywhere with them. I don't know why you guys are so restrictive here. I don't know what's with you. You can't even take a pocket knife. We take a bush knife, man. We're serious. Anyway, they came out. They cleared out under the house so we could at least see what was under the house. Okay, next picture. But there's no water. There's no wells. There's no nothing. So you drink coconuts. Okay, next. Because it's very hot out there. It's always hot. We're 2 degrees off the equator, and that means it's hot and humid 24/7, 365. We don't have winter. I mean, it says it on the calendar, but you wouldn't know it by the thermometer. Anyway, this is after they got all cleaned up. Okay, next picture. Got to keep going here. This is OSHA-approved scaffolding. 2x6 with no rails. They're out there scraping the old paint, trying to get ready for paint, and put some screen on the windows to keep out the big flying mosquitoes and all those good things. But we didn't have an inspector come on, which is good. And they put nice paint on for us so that it looks more like a house that's been inhabited. Okay, next. And we even built steps so that my wife and I could get up a little bit easier. Because at our age, it's easier to walk up steps rather than to walk up 2 rails. There's just something about age, I guess, that does that. But anyway, people say, why is your house so far off the ground? There's number one reason right there, because when it rains, it rains. That's 15 minutes of rain, and everything underneath the house is flooded. Also, it keeps out some of the creepy crawlies, some of the other things that you don't want, and it helps get the airflow that you desperately want because the AC doesn't exist there. It's natural. This is the inside after we got it fixed up. There's the kitchen, a little stove there. It's about 18 by 18. It was given to us brand new from a church member there. We have a little small refrigerator, and you say, well, there's no electricity. That's true. But we took solar panels with us, so we have a few solar panels that we can run a little refrigerator and a little chest freezer. It's about 5 cubic feet. But that's our dining room, living room, and kitchen. You don't have a lot of room to store stuff, but you know what? God provides just what's needed. Next. Here's the outside all finished. We have 2 water tanks under there. We catch rainwater. That's our only source of water is rainwater. And God always provides enough so that we have the water that we need. Next. And God blesses it with a rainbow. Next. This is our vehicle that God provided. It's a Toyota Land Cruiser called a 10-seater. 10-seater means that's how many seat belts are in it. In the back part of there, behind the driver's seat there, are bench seats that fold down on the side. There's 4, you can sit 4 people on the side. They fold down or fold up, which is awesome because that means I can haul drums of fuel, or I can haul people, or I can haul boxes of supplies. It doesn't matter. We can do it. When I first looked at these vehicles in town, there's only one dealer in town, a Toyota dealer. A new one cost about $75,000 to $80,000. I said, Lord, I don't have that kind of money. So I looked at one of those little pickups like you saw. They're about $65,000 to $70,000. I said, I still can't afford that, God. I don't have that kind of money. What are you going to do? I asked for used vehicles. No used vehicles. I said, well, can I import them from the capital or from some other city? Can we import? Well, yeah, but it's very expensive and it's difficult and you don't know what you're going to get, and on and on and on and on. I said, Lord, I need a vehicle. I have to be able to get out to our base in the bush an hour and a half away. I need to be able to haul fuel. I need to be able to haul people. I got to haul the medevacs. What do you want me to do, Lord? I need a vehicle. I can't afford what's here. God said, don't worry, I got it under control. One day I'm down at the dealer's office, and he says, I told him when we were there, I said, we're volunteers. We're here to help the health department bring out medevacs out of remote villages. Those who are really sick, we'll transport them to the hospital. We're bringing in an airplane. But I said, there's a lot I could do with a car. I need to be able to bring supplies to the air base. I need to be able to move the fuel and the patients. He says, well, why didn't you tell me? He says, out in the backyard, there's a 10-seater that the health department owns. They brought it in here 2 months ago, did $3,500 worth of repairs on it, and now they want to sell it. Why don't you go talk to them? I said, well, they never mentioned it when I talked to them. So I called up the guy and said, hey, I need to have a talk. I said, I understand you got this deal. Yeah, I said, we put it out for a bid. We've only got one bid on it, one offer so far, so we're going to sell it to them for that. I said, so it's too late. Well, yeah, kind of, because we told them they could have it. I said, well, how much are we talking? About $11,000. Oh, I said, man, that's something I think we could do that. He said, well, you'd have to up the bid a little bit. Well, the guy that had brought him over to me, who happens to be the district administrator for the whole county there, he says, I'll tell you what, I'll throw another $500 on it if you'll let us have the vehicle. The guy says, oh, I'm sure it's not a problem. He said, besides, I want you guys to have it because I like what you're doing. There's other people that put a bid on it are a very large organization from another country who have lots of money, so they can go down and buy 10 new ones if they want. They don't need this cheap used one. But he went back and talked, and they upped the ante to $16,000. I said, I can't do it. Sorry. So the health department got wise. He went and asked, okay, you got the money? Where's the money? Show me the money. Well, it's going to take us a few months to get the money. We'll have to order it up. It's going to take a while to get it. We still want the vehicle. And I said, thank you very much. We have a man over here who has the cash sold. So we got it for just under $12,000. That's my God. That has been the perfect vehicle for us because we can haul patients. We can haul people, we can haul supplies, we can haul fuel, and we can lock it all up and keep it dry. And when you do medevacs in the middle of the night and it's pouring down rain, it's nice to have it dry. We fold up the back seats, we put a mattress on the floor so the patient can be semi-comfortable as we go over these very unsmooth roads. There are no gas stations. This is the only kind of gas you can get. Ours is diesel. So they sell it in 5-liter jugs along the road. And you just buy them and pour them in, along with the water and the dirt and everything else that's in that container. Doesn't work the best, but that's what you have. But you'll never guess the price. It's an awesome price that we pay down there. You guys don't know how bad you have it. Our diesel prices down there are just a little over $8 a gallon. $8 per gallon. And gasoline is about the same price. So when you start complaining about your price down here, come on down. We'll show you what it's all about. But you know what? My God doesn't overlook that. He supplied the funds to buy the fuel to run the vehicle, and then he said, you know what? Got something better. He touched some people at the logging companies, and they are now giving us 55-gallon drums of diesel for free. Do the math. That's for our car and for the tractor to mow the airstrip. 55-gallon drums for free. That's the God I serve. God has so many ways to provide for our needs, we haven't even begin to touch the surface. My wife being a nurse, you were asking for medical nurses this morning. She's one. Sorry, she's going to be on the other side of the world. Come on down and we'll put you to work. Here's one of the patients she's treated. You can't tell it very well in the picture, but the guy there in the blue is sitting down. He's got a hole in the side of his cheek about the size of a dollar. Well, the old kind of dollars, the big dollars, the big ones. About that size right there. You can see his teeth and his tongue. I don't know how you eat when you got a hole here and a hole here. It seems kind of difficult, but it's from chewing betel nut. That's the curse down there. Betel nut. If you never heard of betel nut, that's a nut they chew, and they mix some lime with it and some other little goodies, and it turns bright, bright red. Their lips are red, their mouth is bright red, their teeth are red, everything turns bright red. And they spit like chewing tobacco here, but they don't do it in a cup. They just spit wherever they have the urge to spit. It can be on the wall, on the floor, on the chairs, on the buildings, it doesn't matter. And it's bright, bright red, and it sticks and it stays. It's gross. It's very addictive, and a lot of them chew. And cancer is one of the side effects. Next. Another one, she got called out, and this guy was a cripple. One leg was really twisted and gnarled up. He had one good leg. He cut his middle toe of his good leg, and he called her to see what she could do for it. Well, for those of you that are medically challenged, you can tell that that toe is dead. We asked him, what did he do? He said, well, it was bleeding really bad. I couldn't stop, so I put a rubber band on it for a few days. And that's what happened. We said, well, it's going to have to be removed, but we had to take him to the health post first to get there okay. And as they did it, the medical person in charge there, she grabbed hold of that black dead toe and pulled and wiggled it. And she says, can you feel it? Yeah, I can feel it. Oh, well, then it's still alive. Well, of course you can feel it because it's still attached. But if you squeeze it this way or stick it, you would never feel it because it's dead in a doornail. It's mummified. Anyway, they wanted to do treatments for a few days on it to see if they could make it feel better. They finally taken it off. Another patient we hauled out, a lot of kids with malaria. Malaria is our number one problem out there. We get lots of malaria. The kid was already semi-comatose, and my wife, being the nurse that she is always called to put in IVs. When they can't get the IV in, they call my wife, and she gets it in. Some of them are pretty tough. Another patient we called out to bring in had slashed himself pretty bad, and this is how they bandaged it up in the bush. Leaves and all kinds of stuff. Then she unwrapped it, and the next picture will show you what it looked like underneath. That's what it looked like when they called us. So we cleaned it up, we took him in, and they sewed it up for him. Okay, next. This here is a young girl. She's 15, 16. Had what they call mixed malaria. In other words, she had several different kinds of malaria at the same time. Running extremely high fever, vomiting, bad shape. We're loading up in our car to take her to town as quickly as possible where they had medicine because they didn't have the right kind of medicine out in the bush where we were at. Next. Sometimes we do it at night. This one happened to be a lady who couldn't deliver her baby, and she's making all this horrible noise in the middle of the night. It's pouring down rain, and we drove her for an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes to get her to town as quickly as possible. My wife was back there hooking up IVs, trying to get her some fluids until we could get her into town where they could help her have her baby. Next. My wife also teaches cooking in school, teaching people how to use the limited amount of food supplies that we have, how to make a little more nutritious meals and to cook it a little bit more healthy. Food down there is a major, major problem. There's not much variety and not much of what there is. Out in the bush, we don't have any people that are overweight. Everybody is very, very thin and very short. But lots and lots of challenges. Keep going. Independence Day, everybody dresses up in their costumes. We're trying to be careful here how we show them. We don't get too much shown, but anyway, keep going. That's the women dancers. Okay, keep going. Keep going. I want to show too much here. This is one of my Adventist brothers out there. That's his hunting tools. Those arrows he has, most of them are 3-prong for hunting birds. Out there, protein is so hard to come by that they eat anything that moves, crawls, slithers, flies. It's going to end up on the table if they can have half a chance at it. Don't have beans. You can get lentils in, but they're $7.50 for a half pound. People can't afford that. Eggs are about $7 a dozen for a dozen eggs. There are no livestock. They have a few chickens around, but they get eaten before they reproduce very much, and so the supply goes down quickly. But there are no cows, there are no horses, there are no sheep, there are no goats, none of that stuff. A few wild pigs that they hunt. Here he is hunting with his spear. I asked him, since this is the land of headhunters and cannibals, I said, at what distance could you drop a man with that spear or that arrow? He said about 100 yards. I didn't ask him to demonstrate. Let's keep going. We have one market in town, not out where we are. There are no markets, no stores, no nothing. In town, we have one open market, open air market. You can see it there, next picture. It's great when it's not raining, it's sunny, it's hot. You put the umbrellas up, you keep the umbrellas because when it starts pouring down rain, you're still in the mud. This market is about 80% betel nut is what they sell. You may, when you go on any given day, you may find half a dozen cucumbers, or you may not. You may find a few bananas to eat, or you may not. You may find a few yams, or you may not. Once in a while, you can find pineapples. The rest of the time, you can always find betel nut in large supplies. You'll notice in this picture here, the thing in front there was coconut. Then behind it is betel nut. Then there's greens. You can always find greens. And greens are things that go out in the bush, plants they know that you can eat without dying. And so they harvest them and bundle them up, and they sell those in the market. Some of the greens, when you cook them up, are very slimy, like a runny nose. You know, you roll and you roll and you roll and you roll, and you just can't do it. Then there's others that are very prickly when you eat them, and others are stringy. So you have a variety. Whatever it is that suits your fancy, we got it. Come on down. So anyway, you see there's coconuts, there was betel nut, greens, and more betel nut, and then more betel nut, and more betel nut. So that's the way the market goes there. Okay, next, we can move. In April of last year, friends in Prescott and Phoenix got together and decided that we need to get that plane in P&G. And you have the mechanic sitting here this morning that took the wings off, flew to Guam, and put the wings back on. And we have some others sitting here from Prescott that helped in that process of loading into a container that through friends here in Prescott contacted, got it shipped free from Los Angeles to Guam. And then it was assembled in Guam, and then a pilot from New Mexico flew it from Guam all the way to P&G. And here it was landing 1 year ago last month in P&G at our town there in Vanimo. Next. It's a Cessna 182 4-seater. It's been converted so we can put a stretcher in the back end and still have the seats in the front. Here's the inspectors coming out. They had to fumigate it because they were afraid flying over all that water it might have picked up some strange bugs. I said the only thing they're going to pick up is flying fish, and he wasn't flying that low. Next picture. Here's been put in a hangar because we didn't have the customs fees and all the paperwork necessary. It's been sitting in that hangar for a year. And I might add, rent-free. My God shall supply all of your needs. But there's been one major stumbling block in the paperwork on getting this plane out so that we can fly it. And we've tried, and we've tried, and we've gone through different people and paid money and given the paperwork, and it just has been stopped. There seems there's somebody out there in the universe that does not want our work to progress and has thrown up every roadblock he can possibly do. But my God is overruling. As we were leaving the country 6 weeks ago, we were in the Capitol waiting to get our flight out on Monday morning early. We went in on Friday. We went to the Adventist University to spend Sabbath there. The person that was supposed to do the mission story didn't show up. And since I cannot blend in the congregation like you can blend in here, because I'm the only one that has this color of skin, some young lady came up, sat next to me, she says, "You're Captain Gary, aren't you?" I said, "Yes, and who are you?" She says, "Well, our mission story didn't show up, but we heard that you're a mission pilot. Would you please give the mission story?" I said, "Sure, no problem." So I got up and we gave the little mission story, sat down. The rest of the day went fine. That night, the people we were staying with who are from Myanmar, our teachers from Burma, went there and they said, "We want to take you into town to show you that we do have stores in PNG. We actually have them, and we even have a mall. We want to show it to you." So they took us to town after sundown. And on the way, the lady says, "I need to stop at the grocery store because I need a couple items." So we stopped at the grocery store, and as we're going up and down these aisles, my wife and I are drooling because there's food there. They even had lettuce. We have not had a green salad in a year and a half because there's nothing to have for a green salad. No such thing. They actually had an iceberg lettuce. There was a nice big head. Wow, look at that iceberg lettuce. That's incredible. And we looked at the price. It was more incredible. It was only $24 for one head. Y'all come on down. Anyway, we're going up and down these aisles just drooling on this food that was actually there in the country. Because we're in a remote part, and they don't have these things. And two ladies walked up to me and she says, "You're Captain Gary, aren't you?" "Yes, and who might you be?" She says, "Well, we were out at the university this morning and we heard your mission talk and you said you're having problems with your paperwork on the airplane." I said, "It's true." She says, "I want to take you out to lunch tomorrow and we're going to discuss it." "Okay, that's fine. Here's my phone number." So we looked for you all day yesterday, or today at church. We couldn't find you. You disappeared. I don't know how I did that because I don't blend in. I try very hard, but this time it worked. But anyway, I get so many promises in PNG. It's easy. I get a promise down there for anything. I can get somebody to promise me that they'll do whatever it is I need. But to get somebody to actually do it, yeah, well, that's not even related. So I'm thinking, okay, this is fine. This sounds good. Whatever. She called up Sunday morning, said, "We're going to come by an hour and pick you up, take you out to eat." "Okay, good, let's go." So we go out to eat. She says, "Okay, what's the problem?" I said, "Well, we're leaving the country tomorrow morning because our work permit and visa have expired because we cannot get what they call an NGO, a non-government organization. We have to be registered with the government as an association so that we can operate in the country." When I went down, I had one, but it was registered as a business. And when I got there, they said, no, you can't be a business because you're a charity, you're a humanitarian, you're not a business. You have to have an association. Here's how you do it. You go online, you do it, now it's only real fast. Yeah, right. It took me a year fighting. Nobody answers the phone, nobody answers the email. You can't get anything done. I said, okay. So because we couldn't get the NGO, we could not get our work permit, we could not get our visa, so we're leaving the country. And they said, if you leave the country without your NGO, it isn't going to happen while you're not here. Have it done before you go. We tried. It didn't work, but we ran out of time. We had to go. And the lady says, she says, "I used to be the director for immigration and customs for the country. And everybody that's doing it now, I train personally. I'll take care of your work permit and your visa. You'll have it within a week, maybe 2. Wow, really? Yeah, she says, no problem. I'll make a phone call tomorrow morning. We'll get things going. Don't worry. And she says, by the way, it won't cost you anything. I'd already paid $1,500 for the visa. She says, don't worry. And she says, by the way, on this NGO problem that you're having, she says, my sister who's here with us, right here, she happens to be very good friends with the person in charge of the company that issues the NGOs. She will call him tomorrow morning and get this thing done because we can't keep waiting. It has to be done. We'll have it done. I'm sitting there like, wow, thank you, God. This is a divine appointment. And she says, we heard your thing yesterday. We were going to go to Sabbath school out at the university, but our car broke down. So we couldn't go. It's 20 miles away. So my sister says, let's just go to church here in town. We don't have to go out there. And she says, no, we have to go to the university today for some reason. I don't know why we have to go. But she says, the car's broke down. She says, I know we're going to call a taxi driver. So she called the taxi driver and said, look, I need you to take me to church out at the university and then bring me home. And I'm not going to pay you until after sundown because I'm Adventist. Who's going to do that? Nobody. But the taxi driver she called agreed. She couldn't believe it. She said, this is impossible. So she said, we heard your message, and then we couldn't find you. And then we come shopping on Saturday night, and here you are at the same store that we're at the exact same time. Divine appointments, folks. And then she said, since you have an airplane, you're going to have to deal with civil aviation. She says, my uncle has worked for civil aviation for years. When you come back from your vacation, which is going to be great because you don't have to worry about all this paperwork stuff because it's all going to be done. She says, he will go down with you to civil aviation, introduce you to all the people, all the paperwork you have to do so you can get the plane taken care of. Unfortunately, he died 2 weeks ago. Just 2 weeks ago, we got the email that he died. She says, I'll find somebody, don't worry. But this is the God I serve. God keeps putting people in our path that we need at the right time to do the right thing. And I could give you a whole list more, but you didn't take the battery out of that clock. I could tell you a whole bunch more. I mean, there's some that have happened just in the last couple of weeks that are amazing. I got off the phone yesterday with an organization that is potentially going to offer us maintenance and a mechanic on the airplane in Papua New Guinea, where they would supply the parts and the mechanic at no charge. And then I talked to a mechanic or a pilot who's been doing this with them for 10 years. He said, Gary, your vision is too small. He said, they sent me $20,000 to put in solar panels in homes that didn't have anything. He said, they sent me money to build a kitchen for a community school. He says, you find the project, you write a proposal, they'll take care of it. This is the God I serve. God says, I want to open the windows of heaven that you can't handle it. And that's the problem my wife and I are facing today. There is so much work to do, but where are the reapers? The harvest is white. We have trained 34 lay people, local people, to go out in the bush, to visit, to work with their own people because they know the language. There's 750 dialects on our side of the island. Pidgin is the common language, and I don't speak any of them. I don't understand the culture because it's very different from where I come from. But they do. So we have been training them through the church. Because you see, we're not independent ministries. We are a supporting ministry. We are there to build up the church. We're there to help the church do what they're not able to do for themselves. Providing transportation with an aircraft. Providing transportation with a vehicle. Providing encouragement. Pushing. Let's keep going on the pictures. We don't have time for all this stuff. They don't need to see the destroyed jungle. That's depressing. This is the hangar that we're building. Keep going. Building the hangar out in the mud. We're going to teach them how to pour cement. Keep going. Volunteers came from Texas to help us weld up the rest of the frame that we put together out at Camp Yavapines, if you ever heard of that place. Of course, we have to feed them in our huge house. We stack them in, load them up. Keep going. Here's our first truss going up for the hangar, 60 feet wide. Didn't fit in the can, so we had to weld it back together in pieces. There is no equipment there. It's only manpower, a few ropes, and bamboo poles picking this thing up in the air and hoping it doesn't fall down and hurt somebody. That's the first one in the air, putting up the logs, or the beams for the sheet metal. Keep going. We got to go. There's our crew after it's all standing up. Keep going. Putting on the roof. There's part of the roof up. First American-made building in that part of Papua New Guinea, they tell me. Anyway, going back to the missionaries. We had 34 come sign up for a training class. We let the local pastor, he picked them out. He screened them. He decided who was qualified. He helped with the training. We helped with the training. My wife did some of the medical training, how to tell stories with picture rolls. Anybody remember what a picture roll is? I know they're ancient things. Picture rolls down there are awesome, and they love them. Everybody wants a picture roll. Train them how to use them. We took them out in the bush. Before we left, we got 9 missionaries put out into remote villages that did not know who Jesus Christ is. As I took some of them out to those villages, as we're passing through other villages on the way to their assigned village, the village we were passing through, they say, who are you? I can't blend in. I try, but I can't. Who are you? Well, we're taking a missionary out to this village, to help with medical and to teach the gospel. Well, where's our missionary? You have to bring one for us. Okay, we'll note that down. If we get somebody ready, we'll try to bring you some more. I sent one missionary out. I couldn't go all the way because the road got too bad, and I didn't have time to hike 3 days. We put him on a dugout canoe. It was going to take him another day by dugout canoe to get there. On his way, he's halfway there. They stop overnight. The village finds out who he is and what he's doing, and they said, you're not going any further. We need a missionary in our village. They can find another missionary for that village out there. We want you here. We'll give you land for a church. We'll help you build a church, but you don't leave. We want you here. Folks, the fields are white. Where are the reapers? We don't have enough. They're gobbled them up faster than we can crank them out. Can't do it. We need help. Lots of help. I went to the local pastor there, and I went to the district pastor. They have what they call a district pastor. It's kind of something between the conference and the local pastor. They don't do it in this country, but that's a level they have there. I went to both of them. I said, look, we're here to support you guys, to help you guys. You got to help us. We'll help you do these missionaries. We give them all a small stipend, thanks to donors here in this country, some of them in this church sitting here today, helping to support these lay missionaries. We give them a small stipend, about $100 a month, 120, 100 bucks a month, to go out in these villages so they can work and maintain themselves while they're working out there. We give them a picture roll. We give them a small first aid kit with very basic training. One of them came back after 2 weeks, said, all my supplies are going. So my house is inundated with people wanting medical help, wanting to know more about Jesus, using their picture rolls. Here they're cutting up a sago palm is one of their main food items. They take the inside of a palm tree, chop it all up like sawdust with that little wooden tool. Then they rinse it and rinse it and rinse it, and all the sediment that comes out, they dry it and they make flour out of it. It's called sack, and it tastes worse than dirty water, but that's what they like. And they don't have rice because rice costs money. And if you have money, you can buy rice, but otherwise you eat sack. The Sabbath schools there, the Adventist message went to this area where our base is at 50 years ago. But the missionaries left over 30 years ago, and things have kind of gone downhill. Children's Sabbath school is basically, you come together, they take attendance, sing a song, have a prayer, and then the adults visit while the kids do whatever they want to do. That's Sabbath school. My wife said that is not good enough. Where's the Bible stories? Where's the felts? Where's the picture rolls? Well, a couple of the churches actually had felts that had not been cut out. You know the big sheets? For those of you who've been in Sabbath school, you know the big sheet? They didn't know how to cut them out or didn't have the scissors. So they just sat there year after year, couldn't use them. So we said, let us have them. We took them, we went home, and my wife and I are cutting out felts. Then she goes back and teaches them how to use the stories, how to use the felt. And they're thrilled. Wow, we didn't know. This is great. Here's another Sabbath school class outside. Most of them are outside. We don't have Sabbath school rooms like you all do here in this country. We do out the natural way. Protect the environment. Adult Sabbath school class, outside, under the trees. Another one. Keep going. Another Sabbath school, another church. My wife gets out there to teach stories with the felts. Everybody wants to see because it's something so new and all. This church here actually has a concrete floor, very rare. Most of them are dirt. Notice the benches. You sit on those for 3 hours and you're not feeling too good. Anyway, keep going. This little church here, dirt floor, it's packed. We went there, and because we can't blend in, when you show up as the missionary, you have to do the Sabbath school lesson. My wife does the kids' lessons, and then I have to do the sermon and whatever else comes along. And you get all done. At that particular little church there, they said, we want to say thank you. Will you wait just a few minutes? We want to show our appreciation for you coming today. You are the first missionary that has ever come to our church in over 40 years. No one from the conference or mission office has ever come to this church. And it's right along the road. It's not hard to get to. It's right on the road. But no one has ever come. You are the first. We want to say thank you. So we're all outside. We're sharing more stories from the flying in the bush. And a few of the people disappeared and they came back. You'll never guess what their gift was. This is a church that has nothing. The dirt floors, the wood benches. The people have nothing. No health care, no nothing. They came back with 18 fresh picked pineapple. When God opens the windows of heaven, you can't receive it all. So we took it because that's all you can do. And we found some other people that were needing some food. We shared a few. We ate a whole bunch. And we canned up a few for later days. But when God opens the windows of heaven, folks, be ready for an outpouring because it will happen. This is the church in town. This actually has benches at this church. It's a little more well off. Benches that you can sit on. They have a back. They don't have the cushions, but they got benches with a back, and that feels really good on old people. They even do pathfinders and adventures there. Even out in the bush we have. Keep going. We got to go. We're running out of time. This is the church's bathroom. Not quite like yours. It's just a hole with a couple boards. No doors, no nothing. Baptism. Out in our bush area where we are stationed, there's probably a half a dozen churches that I can drive to within an hour. The pastor has to walk because he has no vehicle, no wheels, nothing. He walks to these churches. It takes me an hour driving. You imagine how long it takes walking. And he doesn't have shoes. He may have flip-flops from time, otherwise it's barefoot. But he goes to visit the church, and I said, when's the last time you had a baptism out here? Because all these churches have what they call ready class, or baptismal class, whatever you call it here. We call it ready class out there. So they all have them. I said, well, man, when's the last baptism? 5, 6, 7 years ago. Couldn't remember. And I said, how long do you have to stay in ready class before you can get baptized? We don't know. I said, well, how long, what's your curriculum? We don't have one. So you're just in baptismal class forever? Yeah, kind of, sort of. And I said, well, when you go to school, how long do you stay in the 5th grade? Well, just 1 year. I said, well, then why can't we have a time frame on ready class? You know, you're in ready class for so long, and then you can get baptized. Well, we don't know. We haven't asked the mission. The mission never comes here to tell us. We don't know when we can do that. So I got the local pastor who's there doing the baptism. I says, Pastor, you've been here as long as I have. You've been here a year. We have to have some baptism. It has to happen. The church has to grow. If we're not growing, we're dying. Yeah. Maybe next quarter. I said, no, let's have it this quarter. Well, maybe at the end of the quarter. I said, no, how about in 2 weeks? Well, we have to have meetings first. I said, let's have meetings next week. Well, I said, let's do it next week. We'll just do it. So we did. He had meetings. We did it for a week. We had 15 baptisms. First time in 5 years, a baptism. And to drive the point home, one of the people baptized was a backslider. He left the church for years. And the Friday night before the baptism, he felt he needed to make things right with God. Chose to be baptized on that Sabbath. The next Sabbath, he was dead. I asked the pastor, what would happen if we had put that off to next quarter? What if we had kept putting it off and putting it off? What would have happened to that man? He didn't have an answer. I said, we didn't have one every quarter. Schedule it. Let's get it in. Hasn't happened yet. We've got to keep working and keep pushing. It's going to happen. And as we send out our lay missionaries, these remote villages, I tell them, in front of the pastor, in training class, I want to hear that you guys need a pastor to come out at least once a quarter for a baptism. You find the week that works for you. I said, I want to see this pastor. I know he doesn't have transportation. I will provide the transportation. We'll come every week to a different church. I want to see him in the water. I want to see the pastor wet. I don't want him in dry clothes. I want him in the baptistry every week. We'll go round and round and round and round and do it. I said, we're going to see growth in this area that we haven't seen before. They look at me like, wow, are you crazy? Yeah, I'm crazy for Jesus Christ. Amen. That's our hangar. It's finished. The last meeting of the meetings, it started to rain, so we moved in there, and that was just, they were starting to fill, and we had it all full by the time the meeting started. Keep going, we're out of time. My wife also does glasses. Quiet Hour sent her 1,000 pair of glasses out, so she checks them for reading. And it's awesome because you say, give them a book, okay, now where do you read? Some are up here, some are out here, and some are right here. And the guys right here say, oh, you don't need glasses. Oh, yes, we do. No, you're reading just fine. Yeah, but they said when our house gets dark, we can't read. Yeah, right. I can't either. Kids don't have toys. This is the only toy they have, basically. It's 2 little wheels on a stick, and they drive it with a long stick, and they walk down the road, steering it with that long pole. This kid was really lucky. He found a broken CD, and he had it on a stick, twirling it on a stick. He had the toy. There are no other toys. There's no such thing. Little boy made this. I told him, you're going to be my future church builder because we need churches built. Lots of them. Keep going. Potluck, church potluck. Nothing like you have here, I'm presuming. Corn, papaya, yams, greens. Oh, yeah, all the kinds of greens, what kind you want. And you bring your own utensils. If you don't bring your utensils, the next picture, they will use the foot washing bins for your plate. And, of course, there's no utensils, so everything's by hand anyway. It's great. Fingers were made first. I kept telling my mom that. Fingers were made first. She said, no, use your fork and spoon. Out there, we don't worry about that. You just use your fingers. It's great. Finally getting to go back. Lots of kids, lots of skin problems. You can tell there's a couple of kids that have really light skin. It's because of a skin disease. It's a fungus. It's like scaly skin. Keep going. A village. This village is way out in the bush. I went to visit there, and they said, we need a missionary. We have an airstrip here, but no mission plane has come for 30 years. Would you please come back again? We'll clean the airstrip up. And I hear this over and over and over and over. Airstrips closed because no mission plane will come. Adventists have a mission plane there, but they only do commercial work, basically. They won't go to the little strips that don't have commercial value. I said, that's why we're here. We're here to provide a free service. We will fly out the sick. We will fly out the hurting. We will bring in the educational supplies. We'll bring in the medicines. We'll bring in the health workers. And he said, oh, finally, a mission plane again to help our people. Please bring a missionary with the plane. That's what we do. My God will supply. After church, when we go home, everybody piles in because it's easier than walking. Everybody has to walk to church 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 miles each way to church and or to school. So we load them up. We don't worry about the 10 count. We get around 15 to 20, and we start saying, okay, that's probably enough. Let's close the door if we can, and away we go. Keep going. Typical house out there, all of them up are off the ground because of the same reason our house is up off the ground. Keep going. That's just common. Here's 3 of our missionaries getting ready to go out. Was there a picture roll they were proud of? And their little box of first aid stuff. And we came back to the States trying to find picture rolls, which you guys seem to have gotten away from. I see all these gadgets you have in your Sabbath school rooms now, and I just like, wow, can't believe it. But up at Prescott, a couple ladies were looking in those back hidden corners of the church recesses, and they found 19 picture rolls in perfect shape. Is God good or what? Yes, God shall provide all my needs according to his riches and glory. Sabbath school class under the missionary house. This is another missionary house. Notice the poles holding it up because it was falling down. Keep going. Locals, this is our missionary training in one of the local schools there. Train our missionaries to go out. Keep going. This is another school down the road. 5 desks, 26 kids, grades 1 to 3. Dirt floors. Keep going. We gave them a flannel set. And this was their first lesson in flannels of the story of Noah. They just were enthralled. They couldn't believe it. We've had people from Australia that we've never met or heard of say somehow they'd heard about us from somebody, maybe emails. I don't have a clue. She says, I'm sending you felt sets. It sounds like you could use them. People we've never heard of. People from this country have been sending stuff. It's like, wow, God will supply. We've taken clothes down in our container, giving out clothes, giving out Bibles. What does it say in Matthew? We feed the hungry. We've seen food multiply down there. But you know what? When we run out of food, somebody will invariably show up at our doorstep out in the bush and say, here's a stalk of bananas, or here's some yams out of our garden, or here's some papaya or pineapple, whatever they have. We want to share with you. We didn't tell anybody we were running low on food, but God knows, and God supplies, and she keeps feeding the people. Handing out the clothes, handing out medicines, taking care of the sick. That's what Matthew 7 says. But as we step out in faith, trusting God to supply our needs, trusting God to complete his promises, because my God's promises are true. And he will fulfill, even if we don't see. It's been puzzling why this whole year without the plane. But now the paperwork is in order, so we can now move to the next step. Maybe we're going to find a mechanic to come do the annual inspection right away so that we can begin to fly. My God says he will supply everything in his time, in his way. But that year that we've been on the ground without the plane, frustrating, we built the hangar. We got a house fixed up. We've been able to train 34 lay people to go out and be missionaries. We've been able to go visit many of the churches, try to get them fired up for Jesus again, getting baptisms going, realizing we need to get out of ready class. Don't stay in ready class forever. People say, what do you do? I don't know. I don't have time to figure it out because we're too busy going on God's errands. God is calling you. Maybe not to go to the bush, but he's calling each of us. The question is, who will respond? Thank you.